All right, real quick. All right, let's see. So, right, we're bearish on this. We have been bearish on this for like 2 months. All right, we've been bearish on this for 6. Yeah, it's been over 2 months, honestly. I've been bearish for since the end of March, but like beginning of March. But even though we're fully bearish on this, we can't, you know, how do I say this? We can't neglect that we need to pull back. Well, not necessarily need to pull back, but the pullback is always a pretty much a good sign, even if it goes against our bias. So we saw last week. All right, so it's Wednesday. So this was Friday's closure, and we were pretty much anticipating either the continuation to the upside or just to die here. But as you can see, right, this died, and it's already given a reaction to the upside. Right, this gave a bearish reaction, but it came back almost just as quick. So it's pretty much like my assumption is that we're finally going to retrace, because we now have a reason to. Looking at intraday timeframes, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's nothing that mitigated here, but something to note here is the fact that we took liquidity, but instantly returned. Right? We instantly returned. Right? There's still bearish structure intact. Right? Those are all continuations to the downside. Now we have the continuation here. Right? We gave the reaction to the downside, and this is anticipating to take out this previous low, but it didn't happen. Right? What happened? We had the BOS there, the BOS there, the BOS there, the BOS there, and potentially another BOS here. So obviously momentum is shifted to the upside, and this is honestly good for us in the long run, because we're finally getting that pullback that we wanted, right? When we're looking at a overall swing perspective, right? That actually that's the wrong fib. I'm sorry. Right here is the main fib that I would use, because this is where the move fully initiated, right? I don't even consider this high. Yo, fuck me. All right. So this is where the swing move started. I would consider this high to be the mitigation of this play here. So, but the reason why I'm saying that is because if we put the open of here, if there's a potential buy to sell there, then the buy that pushed up there, it only came back and it tapped it. So I would consider this high the mitigation play of this initial high. So this is my swing high to my swing low, right? Our equilibrium matches with previous structure. As we said, that's pretty much like where I would really like to see it. And then in terms of, you know, the nearest swing range, right, high to low, right, that's touching a premium pricing, right? Because we have to realize that even though we're bearish dollar, we're in heavy discount here. And if we're in heavy discount, right, from a swing perspective, then it only makes sense to take intraday plays to the downside, but we have to anticipate the fact that we can start seeing upside momentum, which is exactly what happened there. Right, we got the reaction there, and now we have a bullish engulfing. It really looks like this wants to keep going higher. And that's fine, that's okay. Because even once we reach here, right, let's say we reach here, right, the previous structure, right, momentum, right, just a rough sketch. Momentum is still to the downside, and it's going to be to the downside probably for the rest of the year, in my opinion. And the issue is now is time, right? If time is on our side or if it's not on our side, because depending on when this monthly closes, this could be a very bullish closure, right? Because if we have a very bullish closure here, right, now we have seen that we have an unwillingness to continue lower. So although I am bearish on this for the rest of the year, we have to still acknowledge the fact that we just failed to take out a previous low, and we potentially have an ugly monthly closure, right? So it's 50-50, and like I said, the issue now is time. We have 5 days until the monthly closure, and that's going to be very, very important. Also, I need to see what happens in this area if it reaches there. Obviously, there could be, you know, a pretty much a play here, bounces and continues lower, which would obviously be ideal, right? Because you can easily say this is a flag and that's just a retest down. But the issue here with me is the fact that, right, this reaction is very, very strong. And that's just something to acknowledge for tomorrow's plays, because I really want to see what happens during London though. But overall, if we reach back up here, I really want to see how the reaction is, because from the weekly perspective, that's like a structure point. And I think on the monthly, that would be, no, it wouldn't. Never mind, disregard that. But that's still a previous structure point, but it's only a reference point. So in order for me to now want to play that, I would really like to see this move up and then an intraday, right, give me a BOS and then something to play off of, and then we go from there. But like I said, the issue now is time. Time is the only issue here, because obviously momentum is still to the downside. Doesn't matter what anybody says, but it's just we need to see how this reaction occurs, or what happens in this reaction itself. Right, same thing for the euro. But now the issue here is whether this is going to take out this previous low, or it's going to hold it, play off something here. The only issue is that we're already here, and from there take out previous relative equal highs there. And the only reason why I don't really like this wick here is because we always we acknowledge the fact that majority of the moves that we see, the best moves, are during overlap. But this, right, was at 8 p.m. It was during Asian session. So from the perspective of, you know, me, from acknowledging the fact that I like to take my setups during overlap because they just make the most sense, and throughout the months it's what made most sense to me, this could now pretty much, you could see a reaction to the upside, and now this could just be a target, because I'm not convinced that this is, you know, significant to me. Even if we zoom into smaller time frames there, that isn't significant to me, just because of because of the time of when that move occurred. And it's a bit of a stretch, but even going off of here, especially because we're in Asian session and price is already here, right? So even if we're looking for POIs, I don't want to, you know, I honestly don't even want to play off of this, even if it hits during London. I'd rather have it hit during London and give me a BOS so I can take a New York trade to the upside, rather than trying to guess this low here and trying to play something that I'm not fully confident in. And the keyword there is fully confident. If I'm not fully confident in something, I'm not going to take it. And just off the bat, this looks obviously potential there, there's potential there, and there's potential there, right? But if we reach down here, honestly, it's probably going to take out this previous low. So this would probably be the ideal for me, or even somewhere here. But it's just, the issue with me now is I'm not fully confident that this Asian low is going to hold, especially because momentum is to the downside, and we just had a bearish engulfing on very strong volume. That's what's worrying me there, because the momentum is already started here, and if anything, this could just be a first target. Because if we were bearish on this, this would have been my first target, this previous low and then this previous low. Because this previous low is also right, just based off looking at this, it looks like it's right around equilibrium. It's a little bit in discount, but I would really prefer to look for a buy setup anywhere here, because this is actually a move that happened during New York, so that means there's definitely volume inside the move or inside this move here. So playing a mitigation off of that would make more sense to me if that's the play to play. There's always a possibility that it's not, and like I said, structure could have just shifted to the downside, right? We get a reaction and then the continuation lower, and this is only a target. So it's 50-50, even though from the obvious views here, right, this is what many people are seeing. It's like breakout, retest, takeoff, which is very valid. It can happen, but I'm just really just, I don't know, I just don't really want to buy this high in price when we're looking at it from a swing perspective. Like as I said before, I really want to see some type of tap, right? Whether it's on EU or on DXY, some type of structure. Just because it's really that's what's pretty much what I would prefer. And although we still want higher movement, like I said, a pullback can happen, and if it does happen, you play off of that. And for all that we know, this is just something like that, and that actually comes back to relatively around equilibrium. Obviously we'd want lower, but to me this here just isn't fully reliable to me. But that's obviously a reference point, and there's obviously inefficient pricing here, and there's still inefficient pricing here, as we said. So I would prefer to see these be filled before we see upside movement, because now we have no excuse as to why we should return back, if that makes sense. So the reason why, like as before, we pretty much sold EU for the past couple months was to pretty much make sure that these positions are covered here. So now from an intraday perspective, it's the same concept, right? We want to see these be filled so that then we have no reason to believe that this is going to continue lower. And then once it shows us the unwillingness to continue lower, and we see break of structure, maybe a schematic or a very good daily closure, just anything like that, then that will build the narrative for us to continue higher. But for now, I don't really see the narrative to continue higher, because I'm so unsure of this low and this low because of these inefficient pricings. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's really just being aware and seeing what price wants to do. That's what's going to be the catalyst here. All right, as for GU, this one looks bearish, honestly. This looks bearish too. I'm so mad because I sold up here. I literally sold up here, and then the wick from news that day spiked me, broke me even, and then look at that. That pisses me off. Yeah, that's 300 pips. That pisses me off. But this could show that, you know, GBP is still bearish. We could finally see a correction in dollar, even though we've been bearish for the past month-ish. Yeah, month-ish. So I really, it would really be satisfying to see some type of correction. I did take another trade though, and a pair I didn't really trade. Let's see. Right, so the reason why I even consider this bias, this buy bias, is because we could be looking at a type of reaccumulation. Very, very sloppy, but it could still be considered a range, right? Where you're buying climax, secondary test, potential upthrust, right? Your creek, this is your jump, right? This is your LPS. This would be your initial LPS, second LPS, right? We now have a sign of strength because we took out a previous high, and now hopefully we just continue higher. That was my whole goal with this trade. Was obviously my first target was this previous high to show that sign of strength, and that sign of strength would give me a reason to continue holding. But at the time, right, this is what I was wanting to play off of. right? So we were around here-ish, I think. And when I was looking at this, right, off the bat, first thing you see, equal highs, potential target. Obviously, that's not giving us our direction, right? That's only a target. But now I know where my target would be if I find a buy scenario. And off the bat, this stands out to me, right? There's a very impulsive move to downside, and then this is what caused this was the catalyst to bring that price up, which even took out structure. And when you zoom in to this POI here, right, obviously the open is always a great reference point, but the key here was the 10-minute for me, because this gave me so much more confluence, right, in the inefficiency fill here, right? I think I zoomed in even more and I didn't really see anything that interested me. Yeah, so you see the 5-minute here, that wick stands out to me, and then from the 10-minute, and then that's pretty much what I played off of. And I saw a couple of, you know, individuals, not gonna say names, selling this, so good confirmation. But yeah, as you can see, the first tap came to mitigate the open, but we left the inefficient pricing here, right? And this happened right before London. And then there, that was the inefficiency fill. And then from there, it's just a matter of taking out equal highs. Because we've now, oh, hold on, before we even reach that target, just think about this. We're in a potentially a very high time frame reaccumulation, which is the H4 daily. We've already seen our buying climax, our secondary test, and up thrust, and then we saw the creek begin to form, where we saw the jump, and we're now trying to play based off the reaction. So that creates the narrative to the upside, which gives us the bias to want to buy. And then you obviously find an entry, execute, and aim for your targets, which are equal highs at previous high. And that was it. See? So that in general, in total, right, target one was 126 pips, right, 150, and it went on for even more. My goal with that, honestly, was to go back up here. Like, this is my goal with the reaccumulation period, is to take out these highs here, right, these two highs, which is right around 1800. So that's pretty much my target. And if we blow right through it, then we're easily going to see 1920 again, and that's all-time highs. So that would actually be very, very cool to see. Yeah, that'd be very cool to see. And then that would pretty much give us that follow through and pretty much give us full completion of this accumulation schematic, or reaccumulation, depending on how you want to look at it. But yeah, that's pretty much the main target for that. And that's what I'm waiting for. Like, as you can see, actually, I don't even have an alert. Let me. What the hell? Okay, that's so irritating. Whatever, I'll do it later. But you get the point. And pretty much, it's just like, this doesn't have a reason just yet to correct itself, because I believe that we have to take out that liquidity before we see any type of correction, which is why that'll be my target, even though I can easily hold till 1900, which is another 1,000 pips. But I would much rather just get out there, potentially wait for a correction after the liquidity is taken, right, which causes a relief, and try to find a different play to play off of from there, if that makes sense. But yeah, other than that, I think that's like my little rant for this. I don't think I have a topic for today, besides the fact that I'm working on a couple of things for you guys. Like I said in the announcement, my summer class ends Tuesday. It's gonna be my final, so best believe I'm gonna cheat on that. Chag for the win. Yeah, I'm working on a cool video, talking to a bunch of people about it, trying to get different opinions. But I'm really gonna try to shift the just the full approach, because whenever anybody joins, it's like you get access to everything, right? So there's gonna be little things that I'm gonna restrict, and that's only to help you with your development, because obviously off the bat, I don't want you coming in asking me a bunch of questions, you know, like, or asking members a bunch of questions, because obviously you guys aren't here to teach. So just like a rough draft, I want to have X amount of time before you can access the group chat, and then X amount of time before you can access, or not access, but start sending me journals and stuff. That's gonna pretty much be the whole thing. But I need to structure it properly, and I'm gonna have like a whole spreadsheet set up for that. And also I have to work on the video that I'm working on. I already did the GA breakdown. I did a couple more pair breakdowns. If once EU finishes correcting and we do see that final impulse to the upside, then that's gonna be another pair breakdown, and that one's gonna be a long one, because that's like a 3-month long trade. So there's so many re-entries to talk about, so much stuff. What do you mean? Wouldn't that first wick technically fill inefficiency though? No. That first wick doesn't fill inefficiency. Right, and this is a pretty big stop loss. Let's see, let me show you guys. This is a pretty big stop loss. So I zoomed into this area to see potentially what could have been the outcome here, or you know, the potential just overall play. And when I zoomed in, I'm thinking to myself, right, in theory, how big does this stop loss have to be? So if my entry is at the inefficiency fill, right, looking at price itself, right, this would be the inefficiency fill from the 10-minute, right? I'm thinking to myself, okay, let's follow order flow here, right? So this wick mitigated that wick, this one filled that one, this one filled that one, this one potentially filled that one. So nothing filled this one, so I'll probably mark that as my stop loss, which is still a pretty big stop loss looking at it. I mean, it's 10 pips, but you know, that's still a lot for us. But anyways, that would have been the setup there for me. Yeah, I would have done 11. Yeah, I did 11. And then that was the target was obviously the previous highs. Right, so even though it was a snipe, right, that was the play here. Equal highs was 11-1, carried on to be overall over 20-1. But the scary thing here now is this right here. The scary thing for this is that right there. That's considered a BOS because we broke previous low, came back, mitigated up here, and we're giving the follow through. Although it is struggling, as you can see by the wicks, it's still considered bearish. Well, from an intraday standpoint, not from a swing standpoint, but you get the point. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see. I really would hate to see this break during London tonight, or else rip me. But I really want to see just how this entire area here plays out overnight, and then go from there. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my rant for today. I don't really have a topic for today, unless you guys want to talk about something. Got 20 people in here. what determines the bias for today? What do you mean? What do you mean by what determines the bias for today? What do you mean what determines the bias for today though? I mean there really is no bias yet. Like there's nothing to play off of here. Right? You can see that this is still continuing lower. This is now looking like a target. And just looking at whatever time this is, I'm not going to take a play at this time and expect this to go to rocket. So it's like this BOS here, BOS here, BOS there, BOS there, BOS there. So it's like this is still continuing lower. So just be weary of, you know, the fact that that's happening and try not to pick that low. But there's really no confirmation for me right now. Especially after that bearish engulfing there. Oh, for this morning? Nah, this morning I didn't acknowledge the fact that this happened during London. So the bearish this morning was obviously bearish. I mean, the bias this morning was obviously bearish because of this. Right, during New York, I mean during London, you saw that entire thing happen. Right, came back before session, filled previous inefficiency there, continued lower. There was no real entry though for today. Like there wasn't really anything to play off of. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Well, why would you sell? There's no reason to sell here. There's no reason to sell a bullish flag. When corrective structure is getting smaller and smaller, it really doesn't make any sense. And I did show in the markups why. I showed in the markups, bro. Just go look in the markups. I know I showed like why I picked my buys on Monday and Tuesday. Yeah, bro. I always show that. Yeah, I know I showed it this week in the markups. But yeah, I mean, other than that, guys, I think I'm done. Unless you guys want to talk about something, you guys have a question, I'm pretty much good for today. Yeah, guys, I guess nobody has questions, so that's cool. That's actually a good thing when you guys don't have questions, but yeah, guys, I'll catch y'all later, though. Yep.